Today on JiK Labs, we're going to show you how to wrap text so that your cell width doesn't have to be miles or kilometers wide. Let's get started. Now that you have Excel open and ready to go, you're going to see that we have some data, preset data for us to look at today. We have our header columns, example, description, and description 2, and we have 2 examples. As you can see, we have an example 1 in our first description. This is an example of wrap text. Sometimes your data can be too long. And for description 2, and right now we see all of that, but in description 2, we're going to say, yes, it can be. And we're going to hit enter. Whoa, what happened to our description here? Well, since there was nothing in C1, B2 was able to run as long as it needed to be. So how do we fix that? Well, we could come in here and make it font size -5 to make all of that fit into this. We could say, come up between B and C and double click and make that column width auto fit to the data that is in there, but that could be extremely too long, and then you may run into print issues or other issues with a column that wide. So let's put that back the way it was, and let's go ahead and make it a little bit wider, but as you can see, that is still not wide enough to get all of our data in there. So how do we combat this? Well, we're going to select cell B2. We're going to hit the shortcut for cell formatting, Control 1. We're going to bring up our formatting cells window, and we're going to go to the alignment tab. In our previous video, which you can see up here, we've looked at adding an angle to your text, which it can be done over here, but now we're going to look down here. We're going to look down here for text control. And what we're going to do is click on wrap text. Check that box and then hit OK. And we're going to see right back here that now B2 has auto formatted and it increased the cell height, and now we have all of our data all in B2 and it is wrapping around B2, hence the name wrap text. So let's look at a couple of other things while we're here. So right now it is centered top to bottom, but let's just say we made row 2 a little bit taller. Well, now all the text is at the bottom. So let's highlight row 2, and up at the top center on your home ribbon in your alignment, you can select the middle alignment, and that will center everything vertically in your screen. And if you highlighted row 2 again, you could go left justification, center, or right justification. So for right now, let's just leave it as centered, or in this case, middle alignment, center of the cell. So the same exact thing in example 2 you can see is we have C4 is right justified. But if we enter description in B4, now you can see that this is cut off again. We could fix this by clicking on left justification, but then if we added something to D4, this also would be missing the data, as you can see. But we'll delete that out, and again, in the same exact thing, we're going to hit Control 1. On the Alignment tab, we will check Wrap Text and hit OK. And we can see that now this cell is all in C4 and all the data is wrapped around. You can go in and change the formatting and everything to that case. So another ability that you can do sometimes, for example, let's undo the wrap text on this guy on example C4. You could highlight C and D and come up to the top center and hit merge and center. Well, that works great if it's a standalone type cell. But as you can see that this is kind of a table that we've made, and now we have this cell highlighted in C and D, and if we needed to add columns in D, well, let's just do description 3, and we're just going to go 1, 2, and as you can see right now, since we've merged and centered that, we enter a 3 here, it's going to overwrite our data that was in C. So not always the best solution is merge and center. Sometimes you could just limit your data length so that it's not so bad, or you could make the column as wide as possible, like here. But Our screen is blown up pretty large so that you guys can see it on YouTube, but having a column this wide isn't doable. You're going to run into print issues, and now you're going to spend all your time trying to figure out what's going on because you can't see any of your other data because column B is so wide. So wrap text allows you to have more data than you do cell width. You would have to increase the height of those rows, but generally Excel, when you do that wrap text, will auto format for you, but you can also come between 2 and 3 just like you do between B and C in the columns in the rows, and double click and Excel will auto format that height for you. So another option you could look at, which sometimes is not the best viable option, is shrink to fit. That's in the same exact window if you hit Control 1, and we have selected B2. So we'll hit Control 1 and we're going to bring up our Format Cells window. So if we click on Shrink to Fit right below Wrap Text, we're going to hit OK. And now you can see that this data has been put in, but it is relatively small. Sometimes that will work, sometimes it will not. It's all a matter of your personal preference. See, if we made column B a little bit more narrow, now you can barely see that. But if you were to wrap the text and make that column a little bit more narrow, you would still be able to read everything. So there are just two options to help you condense, or not really condense, but get all the description and or data in a cell that you may need. Hopefully you found this wrapping text very helpful, as it will make your life easier, allow you to keep more narrow columns while having just as much data as you need. Thanks for watching JiK Labs, and we'll see you all next week. Now that you have a